All right. Okay. All right, I think you all hear me okay. Think you hear me okay. Let's give it a little time here. Okay. First of all, thank you all for joining. You all hear me okay? We got a very serious conversation tonight. Very, very, very serious. Let's give it a little time here. Okay. You can tell that from the title, I presume. First of all, thank you all. Will America survive? Will the American democracy survive the next 4 years? That is the question of the hour. You can tell that from the title. Will America survive the next 4 years? Will America survive? Will the American democracy survive the next 4 years? So, I think you were just having some feedback. I believe I got rid of it. Will America survive the next 4 years? Will our democracy? All right. So hello, everybody. Hello. Yes, there was an echo. I got rid of it. Please. I'm sorry. I got rid of the echo. It is gone. The echo is out of here. It is gone. Hello, everybody. Hello. Sorry about that, Anthony Banks. An echo. I got rid of it. Is that the Anthony Banks that I know? I got rid of the echo. If so, let me know in the comments. It is gone. Is that the Anthony Banks that I know in the comments? It is gone. Hello, everybody. Hello. Sorry about that, Anthony Banks. All right. So, is that the Anthony Banks that I know? I got rid of the feedback. It's gone. It should be gone. It is gone. Is that the Anthony Banks that I know? You telling me it's not? It is gone. Hello, everybody. Hello. Sorry about that, Anthony Banks. All right. So, is that the Anthony Banks that I know? You telling me the echo is gone? Is not gone? Is that the Anthony Banks that I know? You telling me it's not? It is gone. What about now? Tell me, is the echo gone? It should be. What about now? Just hang in there. Stay with me. Tell me, is the echo gone? Just stay with me. It should be. What about now? Just hang in there. Stay with me. Tell me, is the echo gone? Just stay with me. Don't go nowhere. Somebody said the echo is gone. Delayed repeat, somebody said. Don't go nowhere. Delayed repeat. Check 1, check 2. Did that help? Did that help? Somebody said. Delayed repeat. I actually believe that is. Delayed repeat. Check 1, check 2. Did that help? Did that help? I actually believe. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Don't go anywhere. I will fix this. I actually believe. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Don't go anywhere. I will fix this. I actually believe. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Don't go anywhere. I will fix this. I actually believe. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Don't go anywhere. I will fix this. I actually believe. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Don't go anywhere. Check 1, check 2. I will fix this. I actually believe. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Don't go anywhere. Check one, check two. I will fix it. It shouldn't be happening. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Did that help? Don't go anywhere. Check one, check two. I will fix it. It shouldn't be happening. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see what you all are saying. Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Can't believe that got rid of it. I am sorry. I am absolutely sorry. Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Can't believe that got rid of it. I don't know what that's about. I am sorry. I am absolutely sorry. Check one, check two. Check one, check two. Can't believe that got rid of it. I don't know what that's about. I am sorry. I am absolutely sorry. Check one, two. Check one, two. Let's see. They got rid of it. My apologies. My apologies. All right, did that get rid of it? No, I see it. Still here. They got rid of it. My apologies. This is not something that I have seen before. And that is why. All right, did that get rid of it? No, I see it. Still here. Let me see. Check one, two. Let's see if that got rid of it. Let's see if that got rid of it. I think that did. I think that did. I think that did, you all. I believe that got rid of it. And the Lord's going to put a special blessing on you who hung around and allowed me to figure that out. Special blessing for those of you who hung around until I figured that out. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. I believe that's it. Can you all tell me if that is it? Did I get it? Did I get rid of it? Let me know if I got rid of it. I believe so. I tell you what, we got much more serious problems than, that feedback that we had there. And I do apologize. Thank you for your patience. I want to say hello to some of you. So let me see if I can pull you up. Can I pull you up? What I need to know is whether that feedback is gone. I believe it is. And I hope that doesn't start it back. All clear from Detroit, Michigan. What I need to know is... Thank you, Detroit. Thank you, Detroit. Thank you, Detroit. Detroit's always in the house. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, yes. Okay. It's all good. It's gone. It's gone. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. So, will our democracy survive? Will our democracy survive? All right, all right. So, hello to all of you. Hello to all of you. Hello to all of you. Reese, channel is clear. Thank you, Reese. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. You've gotten rid of it. Great job. Thank you, Miss Mack. Beverly Mack, thank you. Thank you, beloved. All right. So, are we going to get through the next 4 years? That's what's on everybody's mind. That's certainly what's on my mind. Are we going to get through? Is the nation going to survive what we are experiencing? And what prompted this? So many things, quite frankly. So many things. But there has been some things going on over the weekend having to do with deporting some folks that could have been in violation of a court order. They had a hearing on that court order today on the East Coast at 5 o'clock. I don't know if that hearing is over. I've been waiting to see if it was over. There were some legal issues going on with that court order. Let me just say this. My daughter and I, when we have a court order and one of our clients has been ordered to do something, we don't play around with that. We don't play around with that. We do not participate with any client who want to disregard a court's order. We don't play around with that. We don't. As our law firm, we don't play around with that. And I presume, I don't know, I presume that the folks who are legally advising President Trump is likewise as zealous about obeying court orders. I'm talking about the lawyers now. I'm not talking about, just the non-lawyers, because the lawyers have something called a bar card, a license from whatever jurisdiction they practice in. And it is, I'm certain, a violation of our ethics as attorneys to just disregard court orders. So I presume that any of the attorneys who are advising the president is advising him not to violate court orders. That's my presumption. Now, again, the folks on his team or in his cabinet, so on, who are not attorneys, they don't have to be concerned about a bar card. And one of the things you don't want to do when you have a bar card, not only not violate court orders, but you don't want to also be dishonest to the judge. It is written in our code of ethics that you exercise. The judge asks you a question, you answer it honestly. If you're putting forth, information to the court, you answer that honestly as well. So you do not mess around with the judge. Now, from what I understand is they had this hearing, I believe it was on Saturday. Federal judge was asked to review whether or not Trump could properly invoke a wartime law that would give him extraordinary wartime powers to use to deport some people to Venezuela, I believe. But they were going to be dropped off, and I believe they have been dropped off in El Salvador. But they were from Venezuela. And so the Trump administration was sued for invoking the Aliens Enemies Act, which gives the president, again, certain extraordinary powers. And so they had a hearing, I believe it was on Saturday, and the judge said he issued a temporary restraining order, which is different from an injunction. We call it a TRO. The TRO typically stays in effect for 14 days, and then you go back and renew it if the court renews it. And that just gives, you're basically saying, Judge, you need to do this today because we or my client is going to experience irreparable harm if you don't do it today. We need you to do it today. We need you to issue this temporary restraining order now because what's going on is that bad. And so the court can issue a temporary restraining order. Again, it lasts 14 days, and then you come back and you try to get it renewed if you're the person who filed the application. Now, it sounds like what happened in this situation was, I don't know, I wasn't in the courtroom, but from what I can gather, it sounds like the judge issued an oral order from the bench, just gave some orders sitting from the bench. Apparently, he hadn't written it down yet, from what I understand. And so the Trump administration reportedly said, well, it's not enforceable because it wasn't in writing. And let me tell you, there's a big difference between that in state and federal court. In state court, we do federal work too, but in state court, whether it's written down or not, it's enforceable. Okay? If the judge in state court tells you, at least in Texas, okay, let me say it that way. I don't know about the other jurisdictions, but in Texas, if the judge issues a verbal, oral order, then judgment it is enforceable. And if you think it's not and you disregard the judge's order here in Texas, even though it hasn't been written down, you very well could find yourself in contempt of court, either civil or criminal contempt of court. And that can be very costly financially, and it can be also costly in terms of your freedom. So we just don't mess around with that. We just don't, So the Trump administration reportedly made the argument that the judge's order was not enforceable because it was not written down by the time they started transporting these people out of the country. Now, some folks will say, these are dangerous people. These are gang members. They're dangerous. Don't you all want dangerous people out of the country? Absolutely we do. I don't think anyone would say otherwise. Yes, we definitely don't want people in the country who are here, first of all, illegally and gang members at the same time. No, we don't want that. No one want that situation, as their neighbors, right? No one, absolutely no one. So there's no pushback on that, I think, from 9 out of 10 people, maybe 10 out of 10. But the issue is, as you hear me say all the time, as an attorney, there's slippery slopes with this. It's like you give someone an inch, they'll take a mile. And that's what the concern is. That's one of them, at least. And yeah, again, we definitely want everyone out of the country who's not supposed to be here. But as I often say when I'm dealing with the government, be it state or federal, we want them to play by the rules. We got the rules in place for a reason, and we want them to play by the rules. And the framers of the Constitution put in the Constitution what's called a Bill of Rights. A Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights is intended to check the power of the government. The government has immense power, tremendous power. But there has to be a check on that power. So you got the judicial branch, you got the legislative branch, you got the executive branch, and there are checks and balances that the framers put in place, including the Bill of Rights. So, because again, the government can be very overbearing and just can give them an inch, take a mile. So you just want them to play by the rule. Or by the rules. So that's it. And that doesn't have to be, you can, two things can be true at once. It's doing what needs to be done to keep the country safe, but doing it legally, doing it lawfully, doing it constitutionally. I did a video today. You all need to go and watch that video because I talk about what happens when you silence the lawyers in a democracy. It's a really bad thing when the lawyers are silenced because we're the ones quite often who ensure that the government plays by the rules. That's our job. If you silence the lawyers in a democracy, then there's not going to be anyone who can bring the judges into a situation. Okay? And all of this is about protecting our democracy. This is all about protecting our democracy. Whether you realize it or not, our democracy is being tested. And what we don't want to have, and I do believe it's going to happen, but we don't want what we call a constitutional crisis. A constitutional crisis. Typically, that means one of the three, or one branch of our government is at odds with another branch. Like in this case, the executive branch and the judicial branch. I'm not saying that there's a constitutional crisis underway. I don't know the outcome of this hearing today, but we keep getting kind of close to a constitutional crisis. Now, I've been encouraged by the fact that the Trump administration has obeyed court orders. I hope that they did this time, but they have obeyed court orders, and that has kept us out of the constitutional crisis area. We do not want the Trump administration to say to courts, we're not obeying your order. Then we're in a real situation. And I'm hoping that that's not the situation that we are in. Okay? I don't know if that hearing has ended. It started at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know. But I am hoping that the Trump administration did not violate that judge's order, disregard it. I don't see why. I really don't think so, because they filed a brief today, is my understanding. So they are still responding to and so forth, the court, the judge in this matter. So that tells me that that they have not and apparently don't intend to disobey or disregard the judge's order. They just have legal issues. And one of those issues, again, is whether or not the judge's oral order, whether or not it is enforceable. Because, again, they're arguing that because it wasn't, in their minds, enforceable. I already told you, in the state of Texas, and when we're dealing with judges, we just say, yes, they are enforceable. But they're saying when the judge issued the oral argument, they were already in the process of getting these deportees out of the nation. And so I guess they have hashed that out, or are in the process of hashing that out, or will hash that out later. We just want to avoid, again, a constitutional crisis. Our democracy is under attack. I will say that. It's being pushed to the brink. Okay, let's say it that way. It's being pushed to the brink. And I heard a senator say today, and again, you all need to go listen to this this video that I put out earlier about when you silence the lawyers, because, again, when the lawyers are silenced, then we can't get the judges involved. The judges can't just get involved in a political matter without there being a case or controversy in front of them, because they're not supposed to be politicians. They're judges. They decide who's right or wrong in a controversy or case. You can't ask them. You can't ask the judge for advisory opinions. Like, Judge, we got this issue. Can you advise? No. There has to be a case. So in order to invoke the authority of the court system, you need lawyers, because you have to be licensed to practice in the courts. You got to be licensed to practice in the state courts and the federal courts. So without the lawyers filing the lawsuits and the briefs, etc., then there's no one who can get that third branch of government involved. So silencing lawyers is really serious. Really serious. Go watch that video. Now, I want you to hear tape from Senator Chris Murphy. He was doing an interview with Meet the Press, and he said some things about our democracy that should concern every American citizen. I want you to hear what he has to say. It's a couple of minutes long, and we'll come back and I will comment on it on the other side. Okay? Let's do it.
What I'm telling you is that if we continue to observe norms, if we continue to engage in business as usual, this democracy could be gone. I don't think we have a year to save American democracy. I think the way the president is acting, using law enforcement to target dissidents, harassing TV stations and radio stations that criticize him, endorsing political violence, puts our democracy at immediate risk. So if you are a Democrat in the Senate or in the House, you have to start acting with urgency. And that is the conversation that we have to start having inside our caucus.
Our new NBC News poll, as you just saw, shows the Democratic Party at an all-time low approval rating. Why do you think Democrats are failing to connect with Americans at this critical moment of urgency, which you describe?
Well, it's what I just talked about. I mean, I think Americans want the Democratic Party to stand up and fight and to take risks. Listen, I understand that had we gone into a shutdown, even for a handful of days, it would have been difficult. But it would have sent a message that the Democratic Party is not going to be bullied by Donald Trump. We are not going to let them write spending bills unilaterally that cut programs for people we care about, that give the president new and extraordinary power. I think Democrats in this country, but I think the broad middle of the public as well, want to see our party fighting in exceptional ways. That is the conversation that has to happen inside of the Democratic Party, inside our caucus. And if we don't get that right, if we continue to work with Republicans, if we continue to hand Donald Trump more power, we are going to lose our democracy.
Okay, you heard it from a sitting senator. That interview occurred yesterday. Okay, occurred yesterday on Meet the Press. And I want to make sure you heard what he said. So he said that if the Democrats, I guess, and the country, who are concerned about our democracy, if we don't fight back, he says that the country, our democracy has less than a year. Less than a year. I don't know where he got that time frame from, but less than a year would be sometime in 2020. You know what? We really don't know. He didn't specify, but that could be any time before March of next year. And I'm sure if you pressed him, I don't think he would give you some exact month or time. But the point is, the pushback needs to be urgent. Can you imagine that, first of all, that a sitting senator would say that the American democracy, if there's no pushback, will be over in less than a year? Did you ever think that you would hear your ears would hear such a thing? I mean, really. We say that America is the most powerful country on the planet. We say that America is exceptional, exceptionalism. And here a sitting senator says, he warns us, that if we don't fight back, our democracy will be over in less than a year. That is very sobering. That is very sobering. Very, extremely. I didn't know that I would hear such a thing. You couldn't have told me that I would have heard someone say that a few years ago. But based on his assessment, that's where we are. And so that's why we don't want a constitutional crisis. We do not want the Trump administration disregarding court orders, because then the Trump administration would be saying, we are the top dog. We don't listen to the judges. And some of that kind of chatter is coming from the Trump administration, in the sense that I heard the press secretary say that a single federal judge does not have the power to, how does she say it, to issue an opinion or an order of some sort, an injunction that has national impact. And look, I've been doing this for going on 2 decades, and judges, federal judges, not appellate judges, not Supreme Court justices, federal judges issue opinions, rulings, orders that apply to the whole nation quite often. But she said no. And I heard another one of the folks involved in the Trump administration say that a federal judge's orders cannot stop the executive branch from doing its function. What? Can't order a federal judge to do something? I mean, really? Just think back. Just think back to Biden and his student loan program. Think further back to Nixon. You see? That's why, especially the lawyers in the country who are not a part of MAGA are alarmed. Those kinds of statements. It's like, where's this headed? Wow. Yes, I see here that someone is saying, and I do appreciate that, please hit the like button. Also, in addition to the like button, if you will, share the video, comment on the video. The engagement certainly does help YouTube push it out. Okay, so several people here are saying, I don't see that happening. Several people here are saying that the sound is going in and out. Are those people just trolls? And if you're not a troll and your sound is really going in and out, I don't mean anything, mean any harm by that, but I'm just curious as to how some of you all are hearing fine, and others of you, somebody here is saying echo, still echoing. Put in the comments, let me know if you're hearing any kind of echo, if the sound is going in and out, so we can put all that to rest. Okay. Sounds good here. All right, thank you. Sound good on my end. Thank you to Brother Donald, Brother Banks. Someone else says no. All right, so apparently those are trolls, and we're going to disregard them. If you have questions about this, let me put it in the comments. I'll be happy to answer the question if it's within the law. Now, do remember, keep in mind, nothing I say is legal advice. I will not. This has to do with our democracy, this has to do with the court order and all of that. Don't ask me a question, a personal legal question. I will not. I won't even acknowledge it because obviously I can't give anybody legal advice on a live show. I have no idea what's going on with whatever you're going to try to talk to me about. So I no, can't do that. Just find you a good lawyer in your jurisdiction. Someone says Midas is much bigger. I think that means is it Midas YouTube channel? I believe it is. And someone says is much bigger. Sure, they've been at this a minute. But I would say this, and I think this is really important to be said, in fact. I think this is really important. What I share with you from the African American perspective. I'm concerned about everyone, but especially melanated people, how the law applies to us. That you will not get on many of the other channels because that's not their fight. We got a fight here that is political, is racial, is classism, it's different angles. And since I've been 63 years old, since I've been African, since I've been black for over 63 years, I understand what we deal with, and I know how the law uniquely applies to us. And if you listen very carefully to some of the other channels, they don't give you the law from an African American perspective. Even the Democrats or even progressives who don't have our hue, so yeah, they're bigger and they give you whatever, but I give it to you from the black perspective. How, for example, here's an example. I say all the time that we must protect our democracy, we meaning African Americans, because we will not do well as a people if you take away democracy. Because democracy, it is in a democracy that we have the civil rights that we have. I'm going to point that out to you, whereas the other channels will not. In many ways, let me say this too, in many ways, we must control our own political destiny. I appreciate this. I appreciate somebody even saying this and sort of getting me to comment on this. We must control our own political destiny. We cannot even allow white progressives to control our political destiny. And that, I'm not saying they're bad people, and they're not. I'm not saying that. But us, must lead and control our own political destiny. So when you talk about the other channels being larger or smaller, what you have here is a civil rights attorney, a civil rights channel of African American people. who have experienced racism just like you. So it seems to me you would want to get the law, especially civil rights law, especially this stuff, this democracy stuff, from someone who has walked in your shoes. I'm telling you, there's a big difference. When I'm representing people, when I'm representing African American people, for example, not only do I know the law, I know their culture. I know their culture. So when I go talk to the prosecutor, when I go talk to opposing counsel, I know some things about this person that should be taken in consideration. I know some things about this African American person that the jury needs to know, that my Caucasian counterpart attorneys, my colleagues, they don't know and they don't appreciate it because they've not walked in our shoes. You follow what I'm saying? So, all right. Okay. Yeah. Somebody said, that's true, sir. That's why they took down Joy Reid and others. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Joy could connect with us a whole lot better than some of the others because they just don't have that same cultural connection. When I was a school teacher, I could connect. I had concern. I had a certain heartfelt concern for my students, my African American students, that the white teachers just did not have. They just didn't have it. I'm not, again, and not bad, it's just oftentimes a cultural disconnect. You know, I taught high school chemistry and earth science, physical science, and when I got to the classroom, the young African American male students, it's part of the reason why I wrote my book, but the young African American students were allowed to sit in the back of the classroom and basically do nothing. That was the only expectation that they had of the young black students. Sit back in the classroom and be quiet. When I went into that school system, there is no way on God's earth that I was going to allow young African-American males to sit back in the back of my class and not learn anything. Just because of the cultural connection. So what I did was I put all of them on the front row. In other words, I communicated to them that my expectation of you is much higher than what you're used to with your other teachers because I care about you. And I know how they failed me. I'm not going to fail you like that. I know you're really only expected to be good athletes. I even had one of the coaches to come to me and say basically, Mr. Corbett, can you let this this student, he's our best basketball player, can you please give him a passing grade, and because we really need him. Young black kid. And he was a great basketball player, no doubt. I said no, because I warned him and I warned his classmates that if they didn't work to get a good grade, I would not give them a good grade. And I don't care I don't care about them being the star basketball player. That is, that's what you get from the teachers who don't care about you. They don't care that you graduate with a 1.3 from high school. Look, I was a high school dropout. I'm a high school dropout. So I was not going to fail them the way I was failed. I just said all that to say I bring a perspective to these things that a lot of other channels don't. Now, somebody mentioned Roland Martin. Roland is definitely spot on. But Roland is not a lawyer. Okay? Roland is one of the best journalists out there. I love Roland Martin. Okay? But when we're talking legal stuff, and Roland knows he's not a lawyer because quite often he'll have a lawyer on his panel. So Roland and I are still not in the same space. I'm not a journalist and I don't purport to be one. I'm a lawyer. Okay? And then I can also bring to you the Word of God. I can tie it all together. What it means to be an African American, how the law applies to us, and what the Word of God says. I can bring it all together. All right. All right. So, folks, yes, our democracy. Thank you, Paulette Williams. Somebody said, I know, Reverend, but that doesn't mean you can't work together. I'm certainly not saying we can't work together. I'm saying we as African Americans, we need to lead our own struggle. That's what I'm saying. Okay? We need to lead our own struggle. I can talk about that for quite some time. We must lead our own struggle. And if they just like with the SCLC back in the 60s, Southern Christian Leadership Council, Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, and other black clergymen led that movement. Others could help, others could assist, others could donate, but those men knew their community the best. We have to be, as much as possible, self-sufficient. We can't entrust our struggle and our movement to others. All right. Thank you so much for that comment, Ms. Boyd. And I definitely agree. We certainly can work together, and we need to work together. But we got to lead it. We got to lead it. Someone mentioned Joy Reid, and I think that is a perfect illustration of what I'm saying. I don't know the reason why Joy was let go from MSNBC. I don't know. But first, she shouldn't have been, right? It looks like what they did was sort of whitened MSNBC. And the woman who took over for I can't think of her name now, who was over that section of MSNBC, she was a white woman, and she was, I think, probably a liberal or progressive. Don't have a thing against my white, progressive, and liberal counterparts out there. I'm just simply saying we have to figure this out and lead our struggle because no one knows it better than us. Okay, so it's been almost an hour, folks. Let me recap a couple of things. I don't know what the outcome of the hearing was between the Trump administration and the judge that issued this order. The Trump administration basically said they didn't violate the judge's order because it wasn't enforceable, and they had already put things in motion before the judge issued his order. And they said the judge's order was not enforceable because it was an oral order. Now, I tend to disagree with that, and we don't do that as attorneys. If the judge sat on the bench and ordered us to do something, we take that just as serious as when it's in writing. Okay? We don't want to get close to any constitutional crisis. And we're about 2 months into this, and so far, the Trump administration has obeyed court orders. There's a lot of pressure, I believe, from within not to. Let's just pray that they continue to do so because that would move us into a constitutional crisis. And we don't want to go there. You also heard Senator Chris Murphy say that if we don't push back and try to protect our democracy, then he says he doesn't believe it will last a year. Those are sobering words. Sobering words. So please, get engaged. The worst thing we could do right now is be silent. The worst thing we can do right now is be silent. Because silence is acquiescence when someone is watching your behavior to see if you're going to accept that. It was Frederick Douglass who said that the oppressor looks at your level of pushback to know exactly, and I'm misquoting him, obviously, I don't know the quote, it's a long quote, but to know exactly how much injustice they can impose based on what you accept. So being silent right now is the worst thing. And, there are a lot of African Americans who are saying we can't really speak up and speak out because Trump may use that to impose martial law or invoke the Insurrection Act. Listen to me, folks. Our people faced a whole lot more than martial law and the Insurrection Act and so forth as they struggled for freedom in this country. Oftentimes, their very lives were on the line. On the line, their lives. So, yeah, we know that there are all sorts of things that can be done to us. I'm well aware of that. But silence right now is acquiescence. And besides, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, of power, and a sound mind. If our ancestors could face the whip, the hanging noose, castration, and all kinds of things, we certainly got to have the courage to not go back. We can't let them take us back. When you think about things like the fact that they have removed the names of African American people from the Arlington National Cemetery, men who gave and women who gave their lives fighting for this country, and their names have been removed from the Arlington National Cemetery. I'm a veteran. That gets me really riled up. So many of our people gave their lives for this country. And they don't get the dignity and respect of having their names at Arlington. It's my understanding they removed the names of blacks. And guess what? Even Colin Powell. It's what I read. Removed the names of blacks, Latinos, women. Who does that leave? White males. White males did not lay the economic, financial foundation of this country. And white men have not been the only people building this country. This country was built by many, 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 many people of color. And we don't get the dignity of just having our name in the records of the Arlington National Cemetery. We can't be quiet, folks. You know, I often think about grandchildren and so on. I don't want my I don't want any grandchild or grandchildren I may have to say, well, granddad, what did granddaddy do? What did grandpa do when all this was going on? I would want my children to be able to say, Grandpa fought. He stood up for you. Donald Wells says it makes me want to cry. That is precisely how it makes me as well. God to get us through. I assure you of that. As he did our ancestors. They went through a whole lot more than anything we have experienced. But isn't that insulting? To remove the names of black men and women who died for the country? It's just a slap in the face. It's spitting in the face of those people and their families. It's insulting, disrespectful. And to show you how really dumb this stuff is and unjust. It is unjust. Somebody said it's unjust. Let me tell you why it's unjust. Because equity, inclusion, diversity are biblical concepts. I counted the word equity in the Bible multiple times. Heaven will be a place, and it is a place, pardon me. I'm thinking about when we get there. But heaven is a place that is extremely diverse, inclusive of people who are born again, irregardless of color, race. None of that matters. Acts 10, 34, 35 says he's not a respect of persons. He doesn't have a favorite group or favorite race of people. So if you have a hard time here being around a diverse group of people, and keep this in mind, this MAGA movement is led by confessing Christians. White evangelical Christians are the inspiration of this MAGA movement. They know what the Bible says. But if you have a hard time here, being around people, diverse people, and including people from, you're going to have a real hard time. In fact, you're not even going to make it there, I don't think, because, I mean, you're a bigot. And the whole other side of that whole thing, that DEI thing, I read a really good book entitled, I believe the title is Meritocracy is a Sham. Get a copy of the book. It's a sham. A lot of these people who got these positions and so forth and so on, they didn't earn that stuff. It wasn't meritocracy. I mean, come on, folks, let's be real about this. We were enslaved for 250 years. That ain't no meritocracy. And then we were in Jim Crow another 100 years. That's 350-some years out of the 400 years we've been here. There's been no meritocracy in this country. All right. Somebody said it right. Hell is not segregated either. And then someone followed up with, might be. Yeah, there may be some special places for some of this foolishness down here. I do not call for violence. I want to make sure that that's understood. I am certainly not calling for any violence. No. Now, that said, I did see this, I'm telling you, this blessed me. And by the way, I'm a 2A man. By that, a Second Amendment man. I grew up in the country, around a bunch of guns. So, I'm yeah, you follow me. I saw a story recently of this community in Ohio. And as a matter of fact, let me just say this. I have another YouTube channel called Armed and Informed. Okay, I started another YouTube channel. It's been a little while ago. They don't have a lot of folks on it. Armed and Informed. And it's what I use to have basically to encourage African Americans to be armed, but to be informed. I've represented so many people who were armed but uninformed and got themselves really jammed up because they didn't know the law. So Armed and Informed is the name of the channel. If you're interested in that, go over there and become a subscriber. But I saw I think it's Lincoln Heights, Ohio, this community, this predominantly African-American community, was being harassed by a bunch of racist KKK skinhead people. And these men, the men of that city, oh man, it so blessed me. They armed themselves. They armed themselves and began to patrol their own community. Some of you may remember the movie Deacons of Defense. Well, these young men did just that. And the sheriff gave a statement in this particular 60 Minutes thing. And so apparently the sheriff and the law enforcement were going to do nothing. So they said, hey, we'll protect our own community. That's what I was trying to say a moment ago, that we got to lead this. We are men. We can handle this. We can lead our communities. And that's what these brothers did. It's go watch 60 Minutes. It's a blessing. All right, you all. I got to go. Thank you so much for joining me. I am out of here. I hope you got something out of it. We're not at a constitutional crisis. I hope we don't get there. Okay? Our democracy, as Senator Chris Murphy said, we got to work to protect it. And we African Americans need to work very hard, because if democracy goes away, so do our civil rights. And it's the reason why a lot of people want to get rid of democracy in the first place, because they want to get rid of the civil rights. Okay. All right. I'm gone. Blessings to you all.